Sophie just revealed to Rob that she's bisexual, and while I thought Rob might not care or might be kinda childish about it, I did not expect him to have
every bad response imaginable.
Seriously, it's like he was trying to win at asshole bingo. So, because he was so intent on demonstrating how to be a shitty partner, I thought I'd help him out by breaking down every one of his dysfunctional responses, explaining why that makes him the worst, and giving some counterexamples of how to actually be healthy and functional and, not a selfish asshole. So, let's get to it.
I'm bi.
Okay, so Sophie just told Rob that she's bisexual, and just before that revelation, we saw her have a near anxiety attack just over the idea of telling him. But instead of doing anything to reassure her, Rob just stares at her, looking vaguely confused in silence. So, not the best start.
I feel like this is something you probably should have told me before. A long time ago. Probably 2.5 years ago.
But I wasn't fully accepting of it 2.5 years ago. It's just why I've only told you now, because I've accepted it,
I think that's a reasonable request from Rob. This is new information, well, you could have told me this earlier. But if Rob is actually listening and paying attention to what Sophie says, then I think he'd pick up that she clearly has a lot of shame or judgment and feels really bad about this. This was clearly really hard for her to accept herself, and you combine that with the near panic attack that she had just before telling him, and it seems pretty clear that this is really hard for her. It's a very distressing situation, and she really needs him to just do something that's kind of approving. Anything that's not just staring and looking vaguely mad.
Her being bisexual isn't a bad thing. It definitely raises a bunch of new questions, and the fact that she's only now realizing that she's bisexual, it's kind of like, what does that mean for our relationship? I don't know.
It's okay that she's bi, but that does just introduce some questions about what this means for the relationship. Okay, that's great. That's a totally fine thing to think. But can you say that to her right now? Thanks for telling us weeks later when you've been able to think about it, but in this moment, it would really do a lot if you could tell her that. You just have to say, it's okay that you're bisexual. I don't judge you for it. That's okay. I still like you. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm a little curious as to, what this means for the relationship, but I know this must have been really hard for you to tell me, and I'm sorry that you've had such a journey with trying to accept it yourself. I just want to let you know that I accept you for who you are. You can tell me anything. Just remember that and consider how differently the entire rest of this episode goes if he just said that in the beginning.
You ever even been with a woman?
I haven't dated any woman.
Come on, Rob, you're better than this. Yeah, he might just be curious of, have you been with a woman, and just genuinely want to know, but that's not what his tone certainly suggested. His dismissive, I'm barely even paying attention, I don't care kind of body language, and the tone he used, have you even been with a woman? That sounds judgmental, and also sounds like he doesn't really believe her. Which is really frustrating because you know that this is hard for her to tell you, right? She just had a near panic attack just even thinking about telling you. She's really nervous. She can barely make eye contact with you. This is really clearly hard for her. And instead of doing anything to support her and say, thank you for telling me that. I still like you. Any kind of support. Instead, you're going to go how do you know you're bisexual? Interrogation route?
I haven't dated any woman.
But you know that you would what? You physically attracted to a woman.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what she's saying. That's what being bisexual means.
Most girls are physically attracted to women. They find women attractive. I think women can appreciate a woman's beauty, gay or straight.
Right, but they don't want to have sex with her.
And now we're invalidating. Wait, you haven't been with a woman yet? So how do you really know? Oh, you're attracted to women? Every girl's kind of attracted to women. That doesn't mean you're bisexual. Rob, what are we doing here? The translation that I hear and everything he's saying is, I don't believe you, and you're wrong. And a little bit of you're also stupid for thinking that you're bisexual. You haven't thought about this the way I've thought about it in these last 3 seconds. I know better than you do. You're not really bisexual. You're wrong.
Right, but they don't want to have sex with her. They just
all right, so I'm asking you then, do you want to have sex with women?
I would have sex with a woman, yes. Do I want to have sex with a woman now? I'm getting married to you? No. I don't want to have sex with anyone else but you.
That's a good answer, and takes things in a little bit of a different direction. I don't know if Sophie is thinking this consciously or subconsciously, but it seems like Sophie thinks that at some level, some of Rob's bad reaction might be due to him feeling threatened or insecure in some way. So she goes straight to the source and says, yes, I would have physical relations with a woman because that's kind of what my bisexuality implies. I'm into women in that way. But just because I'm attracted to them in that way and I'm in a relationship with you. I don't want to go and do that. I'm in a relationship with you. You don't have to worry about that. Which is a great response because she's saying that, yes, this is what the bisexuality, I'm clarifying that, but I'm also clarifying that this doesn't threaten the relationship.
She's telling me and acting like it's not going to ever play into our relationship, but why are you crying then? Why are you so upset to tell me like it's something that I should plug into our relationship? She only got one life to live, right? And if she's interested in women, but she's never hooked up with women, is she just going to be sitting there really, really wishing she knew what it was like? And is that going to turn into some resentment towards me because she decided to be with me? It's just it's hard to understand what exactly Sophie's really trying to tell me.
Well, I can tell you that she's probably just trying to tell you she's bisexual. But I gotta say, although I totally don't agree with Rob's attitude and the things I pointed out so far, I do think that this concern makes sense. It's a very normal concern. It sounds to me like he's concerned that maybe she's okay with all this now, them getting married and she not having the opportunity to be with women. But what happens in 5 or 10 years, once they've been together for a while, now she's thinking more and more like, oh, I wish I got that out of my system, or I wish I explored that at the time. But now I'm in a committed relationship and I can't explore that, and I'm never going to know what it's like to explore this side of me. And he's worried that maybe she'll feel pigeonholed and stuck in the relationship and then either need to maybe break up with him or take a break to explore that side, which could clearly hurt his feelings and not be something he would like. Or maybe she needs to later explore her feelings of sexuality within their marriage, and that's also threatening to him. That's a normal thing to feel. And I'd even go so far as to say that if I was in his position, I'd probably feel or be afraid of the same things. But one of the big differences between how Rob and I would handle this situation is that if I felt scared and like the relationship might be threatened, or I feel insecure, or just want to feel some reassurance from my partner, I'd probably just say that. I'd probably just tell my partner, like, hey, this is cool and all, I'm okay with you being bisexual, but what does this mean for us? Are you going to have these things in the future? You're going to be worried, how are we going to communicate this? I want to feel safe. I want you to feel safe. Also, what did he say at the beginning of that?
She's telling me and acting like it's not going to ever play into our relationship, but why are you crying then? Why are you so upset to tell me like it's something that I should plug into our relationship?
Okay, so because she's crying, she must therefore be lying when she says that this won't affect our relationship. That doesn't make any sense. My impression, and I assume the impression of most people watching, was that Sophie's scared and emotional because she's scared you'll reject her. She's scared you're going to get mad. She's scared that you're going to fight about it. She wants to be accepted and not judged. But it sounds like he sees her crying as proof of essentially how big of a deal this is, or how threatening this could be to the relationship. And maybe what he's saying here is, well, if she showed up and just said, hey, by the way, I'm bisexual, sorry I didn't tell you, not a big deal, and acted like it was a 2 out of 10, then he'd say, okay, well, then this must not be a big deal. There's probably minimal threats to the relationship. But since she's so worried and is at 8 out of 10, then the only reason she would be that worried is if she knew that this would be a really big deal or might involve a need to explore, like open up the relationship or something like that. And then when she says, no, that's not what it means, I don't want to be with anybody else, I'm just telling you that I'm bisexual, he then doesn't believe that and thinks that she's lying to him to placate him. I guess I could see in a very roundabout way that could be an explanation of why she's afraid. But I think that's kind of missing the gigantic, clear, obvious answer right in front of him, which is this is just a thing with her identity and she doesn't want to be rejected. That could explain why at the end he says, I don't know what she's really trying to tell me, when again, it's like she's probably just telling you she's bisexual.
It sounds like in 5-10 years you're going to pop up and be like, just go some woman. Because you're going to want to know.
You're going to want to cheat on you. I would never cheat on you.
When did she say that? When did she say anything like that? Right, so we're back to Rob being kind of an asshole and a bit of a man-child. And instead of saying something like, hey, I'm worried that's what happens in 5 or 10 years if you want to be with someone, what does that mean? Instead of owning his feelings and asking an open-ended question, he comes out of nowhere and says, it sounds like this is what you're doing. Even though you didn't say it, I'm accusing you now of what you're going to want to do in 5 or 10 years and then get mad at you for it and judge you for it. Even though you didn't do that, I think this is what you're really trying to say. You're full of shit. No, bro, this is you projecting your own fears and insecurities. You don't have to project them. You can just tell her you're afraid and ask for clarification. Do you think you're going to need to explore this more in 5 or 10 years? You don't? Okay, well, I guess you say you don't now, but I'm worried that you might change your opinion. And that makes me scared. I want some reassurance of how we're going to handle that. It sounds like this is what you're going to do in 5 or 10 years. That's bullshit. No, bro, you're bullshit right now.
All right, I'm going to tell you right now, if you ever come up with the idea that now you want to meet a girl or you want a girl, girl. You don't get to just have a side relationship or a side thing.
Gross. Gross. Ugh, why do you talk like that? You know, this third person is still a person. Like, that's such a possessive, like, if you just want to F her, then we F her. Like, she's a person, dude. I know this right now, it's a figment of someone's imagination. It's not a real person yet, but like, that's such a possessive, minimizing, kind of objectifying. It's very gross to hear. Ugh. But if I'm trying to translate for him, I think what he might be trying to say is, hey, if this has to happen in the future and you need to be with another person, I don't really feel secure enough for you to have your own relation with them, even if it's just physical. I think that's a little too threatened to me. You know, I'd prefer us to be more monogamous with that. But if you have to have a relation with someone, then I would feel more comfortable if this was the three of us in a group activity. You know, so it's not you doing your own thing. It's a little bit, I feel less insecure if it was, you know, us together doing it. Which I think when you present it in terms of security and what I'm comfortable with or what I feel safe with, I think that's more reasonable. And I think Sophie could even understand that. It's like, maybe that's, you know, a constellation we'd have to make. But if you need to F her, then we F her. Ugh.
You don't get to just have a side relationship or a side thing.
My reasoning would be figuring out sexuality. Yours would just be another woman.
No, mine would be if my girl gets to somebody else, then I get to somebody else.
You will never get someone else. In my whole life, I will never be okay with that.
Then neither
Even
will
you
you.
saying it's disgusting. I will never be okay with that.
Okay, now they're off the rails. Sophie said, no, if I were to pursue something with a girl, it's because I need to just figure out my identity. I need to explore and just kind of figure that out. And if you were involved, you would just do it just to get laid and be kind of sleazy about it. Mine is for internal exploration. Yours is just self-gratification. You know, that's not the same thing. And I get that. And if we consider the fact that Rob has been caught online cheating and sexting other girls and stuff through Snapchat at least twice now, then we could totally understand why Sophie would see that as like, no, you're not in it for the same reasons. That doesn't feel that comfortable to me. But I wonder if he had presented it the way I had and framed it in terms of what you feel comfortable with and what I feel safe and secure with, and also maybe he hadn't cheated already, then I wonder if she were to hear all that, maybe she might be more open-minded. Like, okay, well, if this would help me get my exploration needs met and you'd feel more secure and safe, then, you know, maybe we could talk about that. She might be more open-minded to that because it's actually being honest and vulnerable, and it's easy to empathize because, oh, you're telling me you're scared. You know, I don't want you to be scared. You can meet halfway. But when Rob just frames it like, oh, well, you're just getting a hall pass, you just want to F her, then fine. Now it's got to be even. Now I get to go F someone. Like, no, it's just, you're kind of totally missing the point. You're objectifying everyone in this situation and reducing all possible motivations for any of this behavior as just this instant gratification physical intercourse thing. And if I'm Sophie and I'm hearing this, I'm thinking, this guy, he's not getting it. He's not really getting anything. He doesn't understand how I feel. He's just kind of butthurt about this whole thing and just being kind of rude. And what do you do with that? There's another example of how if you're scared, then actually just saying you're scared and being vulnerable is oftentimes the best way to feel more safe and secure. Because if you do the James method and you just say, hey, you know, I'm scared about all this, you know, I need some comfort, let's meet each other halfway, then it really invokes a lot of empathy. And if your partner gives a shit, then it's easy for them to take care of you. But if instead you did the Rob method and did not talk about your feelings and weren't honest or vulnerable about anything, and instead went on the attack and accuse and just pick a fight, then you've just lost the person who could support you the most and gained an enemy. But that's easier said than done, and I understand why Rob would have a hard time with that, and we'll talk about that later.
I want you to just still love me, still support me, and just appreciate that I've told you this. I don't want to argue with you.
I appreciate you telling me. I appreciate you telling me something that wasn't easy to tell me.
It's irritating to watch. I would guess this is actually Rob giving his maximum effort in the situation. It sounds kind of condescending. It kind of sounds like he's mocking it, not taking it seriously at all. You know, it looks like a 2 out of 10 effort, but I kind of think that's all he can give. I think he's just a 2 out of 10 kind of guy.
Sophie's such a jealous person, and so like no other women will ever be around you as long as I'm with you. For her to then turn around and now tell me that she likes women, as if that's some possibility in her life for women to be around her, that just trips me out.
It's kind of false equivalency there, but I do understand what I think he's getting at. He says that Sophie's really jealous and controlling. You know, I don't really know exactly how true that is. We know that he cheated, so she might just have a very normal amount of jealous reaction around that. But if he perceives that she's an incredibly monogamous person, like it's just us, and we don't want prying eyes, and it's very closed, then I could understand why he might be thinking like, well, it's really closed when it comes to anything I can do. But we're talking about the possibility that in 5 or 10 years, there might have to be a whole new person in your realm of things. Like, I thought it was this closed. I kind of get that. And maybe if he said that to her in that way, I think it's understandable, but it's not quite the same thing. Because I would guess Sophie would say that, yeah, it's this closed when it comes to emotional involvement or wanting to cheat or do something against the rules or just for instant gratification or just hooking up. When it comes to those kind of desires, yeah, that's not cool for either of us. But if it's something deeper and something else that's a lot more complicated and a lot more about self-exploration, then that's not the same thing. So I can kind of get what Rob's getting at, and I understand why he would feel that way, but I personally think it's a bit more complicated than that, and I think I'm on Sophie's side there. But that's why you gotta talk about things with your partner. That's the end of that scene, but before the episode ends, we do get another scene where they go ring shopping, so let's react to that.
I just find it interesting that you spend so much time being so concerned about me thinking anything other than you is attractive, and yet you've literally, in secret, been looking at women.
Rob, that's not at all the same thing. Let's remember, Rob cheated at least twice. He was using Snapchat to elicit girls to send him nude pictures, and then he would engage with them back and forth. That happened multiple times with multiple different women. So for him to say, oh, well, you have such a problem with me being interested or looking at other girls, and you've been doing the same thing in private. So not only is she doing the same sleazy scumbag things as him, well, at least he's open about it, but she's doing it secretly? Like, no, dude, you cheated. You actually did bad stuff. She's just bisexual. She just exists and likes girls. This is where Rob's manchildness really goes up to another level. Because I understand that he's insecure or can't figure this out or whatever, but instead of talking about it, he goes on this stupid attack mission. It's like because this doesn't make sense to him, he now has to equate everything and control the situation and put her down, question whether or not she's really bisexual, make her feel bad or judgmental or shamed about it, and prop himself up like, well, I've done nothing wrong. What you're doing is way worse. You're actually talking about all this stuff. I didn't do anything wrong in comparison when she hasn't even done anything. She literally just likes girls, and he's equating his cheating of basically being the same thing. Have you even been with a woman? Every woman finds women attractive. That doesn't mean they're bisexual. So you're wrong and stupid, and okay, fine, maybe you are bisexual, but now that you are, you're also just wrong for existing, and I'm innocent for all the actual bullshit I actually did. No, that's the dumbest argument. I get that he's scared, but like, really, man? You gotta rein it in. You don't get free reign to just act however you want, to just be an unregulated asshole whenever you feel a little threatened. Man, that's such a man-child thing to do. Okay, let's keep watching.
Looking for wedding bands.
Wedding bands, okay.
Preferably none of these crazy-looking priced ones.
They got some over in the window. I'll show you guys over here.
That front window?
Yeah, white gold, yellow gold.
Cheap gold.
That's pretty embarrassing. There's nothing wrong with having a budget, but just walking in like, oh, all this, this crazy expensive stuff. I'm looking for cheap gold. Not very classy, you know what I mean?
We're doing a K1 visa.
Oh, nice.
So basically, once she gets here, we have 90 days to get married.
How's the 90 days been going?
It's definitely been some new problems, some old problems. Everything's got to come out. All the information comes out, and that sometimes catches you off guard, and you might not be ready for it.
What are you doing? This is so much more information than that guy wanted. Here's some insider information, Rob. He was just asking to be nice. He doesn't actually care or want you to pontificate about all your relationship problems. Like, that's so awkward.
She told me some earlier today I didn't know about her, and it's like, man, I'm still learning about her and still trying to figure out, what that means. All right?
I'm not talking about it right now.
It's all right.
Yeah, what's wrong with you? Do you think going in public and complaining about your partner, do you think that makes you look like you're the good guy and your partner sucks? Because if I'm the ring guy, I'm either thinking this guy is such a child, he's so immature, he can't handle his own things, and it's really inappropriate for him to be emotionally dumping on me right now. Or I'd wonder if this was on purpose a little bit to like publicly shame her or embarrass her or like get her back, which is also really inappropriate. Like, you're gonna use me to make your partner feel bad in public? Like, what kind of guy are you? I don't know, man. This is one of the worst ways to handle this kind of information that I've ever seen. At least on the show, when people fight, you kind of know that they're in fighting mode and just say a bunch of mean shit to win. It's not good, but at least I kind of know what to expect there. But seeing someone handle news and just fail at every hurdle and just take it the worst way, undermining her assessment of her own sexuality, accusing her of things she didn't do, making false equivalencies and trying to excuse his behavior and say that she's doing all this shady shit, trying to publicly embarrass her to get her back or whatever he's doing there. Like, that's such a density of red flags that it's really kind of impressive. Usually it's just one really big red flag, not like 5 red flags at once. Like, that's such a terrible way of handling it. And although I've gone off on him a bit, and honestly, I want to keep going off, I do kind of still remember that paranoia thing. That's she must be lying. Like, I can't trust her about this. Why is she crying if not because she's really lying and she's going to get it with someone else and, I'm going to feel betrayed, basically. You combine that with his general lack of ability to tolerate any amount of his own emotions, his complete lack of awareness of how he feels, his terrible way of coping with these feelings, and his inability to own them and communicate them in any way that seems effective. I guess he's just a really great example of toxic masculinity, but also I think how boys are just raised so poorly to handle their emotions. I don't know anything about his parents or his upbringing. I haven't looked it up. I know nothing. But the way he acts in a lot of these ways certainly looks similar to someone that grew up with a really mean, toxic masculine dad that showed, no have emotions, none of that. Feelings are for weenies, you just suck everything up. And that kind of attitude, especially socialized with culture, not just the parents, over time leads people, especially boys, to just not really know the first thing about feelings. If you're not allowed to feel your feelings as a kid or express them and you're immediately told, oh, you're crying, like you're not allowed to cry, little bitch. Like if that's what you're told throughout your whole life, then now when you're in a relationship, you're supposed to tell them you're scared and feel sad, that you feel uncertain and you want to just jump into their arms and let them catch you, emotionally speaking? In a lot of ways, I feel like the more you're socialized to not understand your emotions and react like a child, the more you're going to end up looking like Rob. And while certainly anybody that's been socialized like that and has those kind of traumas in their head can absolutely still grow as a person or go to therapy and any of those things that can still get you to start working in the other direction and start to understand and tolerate your emotions and be a better partner and see your emotions, but also see their emotions and, just be healthy about things. Anyone in that position can grow in the right direction. But I also feel like with Rob, he also just doesn't seem that capable of learning new tricks. I just don't think he's that smart, okay? And that's not meant to be a judgment or like I'm ridiculing him for that. It's a real question. I mean, if you're just lower on the distribution of intelligence and emotional intelligence, then generally it's going to be harder for you to work against your programming and improve as a person. You obviously still can. I don't see that being super likely with Rob. I would like to be wrong. And of course, I would like everybody to grow as a person and be their best selves and their best relationships and all that. But just from what we've seen, just don't know how much of that is in Rob's future. And it's kind of sad. But be that as it is, still one of the absolute worst ways I've seen someone handle this kind of information. Really infuriating. I can't believe how many different ways he fumbled the ball here. So really feel for Sophie. And, I hope that their situation improves, even if that means breaking up. So that's all I got for today's video. I felt like there was so much in the episode to talk about that it had to be more of a reaction than a traditional commentary video. So I hope this new format was okay for you. And if you liked it, let me know in the comments. But also, if you have any thoughts about this couple, definitely let me know in the comments. And until next time, if you enjoyed this video and you enjoy my content, make sure to hit subscribe, hit the like button, ring the bell for notifications, and every comment helps the algorithm. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.